Alex, what are you working on?
Well, um, here we have a truck that you might have seen a few bits and pieces here and there on. It's a 47 International pickup that the bed has been shortened on to fit on a shorter chassis. The chassis here is a S10 frame um, that we've gone in and done modifications to put solid axles under. The axles we're running are out of a JKUR, so they are Dana 44 electric lockers. Awesome axles to build off of, both front and rear trussed as well, geared, everything like that.
It's just all JK parts, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all JK parts. Same with the steering track bars. It's a JK metal cloak long arm that we modified to be able to work under this frame. So that's pretty trick. We actually flexed it out yesterday, and it does pretty good for an 8-inch ORI.
Yeah, we were
Yeah,
all pretty surprised.
these guys are tiny. We're used to working with 12s and occasionally 14s, but these little 8-inch guys are short. So yeah, we've done a lot of modification to get this stuff together. Got a lot of custom brackets going on here. Basically everything that's not covered in rust has been replaced. As far as the drivetrain goes, we have a Chevy 5.3 truck motor. Just a bunch of fancy goodies on it. And behind that, we have a 4L80 and a new process 261 transfer case.
It's funny, you look at this thing, you're thinking, all right, 600 ponies, and it's just a regular iron block 5.3 truck motor.
Yeah. We might get like 300-ish.
Yeah, it's got more money in the bolt-ons than we do the block.
Motor. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
actual motor.
Customer didn't want to go super expensive, but I mean, obviously he has a good setup that in the future, if he really wanted to build this thing, he's got everything else for it already.
Yeah, I like the all black accessory drives.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my favorite. Always do those on our kind of weird off the wall LS swaps. We had plans on doing the JK Dana 44s under this truck, and originally we were kind of piddling around with just doing our rendition of our normal in-house long arm suspension under it. But to save a lot of time in the process of doing all that, we decided to go with a JK long arm kit. This is the bolt on, or I think there's an option for a weld on as well for this long arm kit. But honestly, it saved us a lot of time and having to manufacture arms and stuff like that. And we also were able to reuse all the axle brackets instead of having to go in and shave all those down and make new ones. So, and this has worked out awesome.
Yeah,
Metal
looks
Cloak
great.
makes a great product that'll last damn near forever. So I'm really happy to go with this way. So in the back where the frame's actually parallel, it's 2 inches shorter than a JK frame, or sorry, not shorter, narrower than a JK frame. So it was like, okay, yeah, that's gonna work. Up here, JK frame doesn't have this crazy inwards angle like this, as well as this frame comes up a bit more than the JK does. The JK's last a little bit longer before they start making any inward movements. So as far as the front goes, the lower and upper brackets had to completely redo those. They're still basically in the same location that the Metal Cloak lift will have them in, just set up differently to work.
Did you bend these arms?
So these arms, we did have an issue with. I really thought we were going to have to go in and make custom upper arms to get this to work, but I decided to give it a try. These uppers originally, instead of bending inwards like this, they actually bend just straight downwards and stay straight. So instead of coming in at an angle like that, they bent down and then came back up. So what I did is at the axle end where you have the little C pocket, I cut the tube off of that pocket that attaches to the axle, rotated these 90 degrees so they'd have this 90-degree inward bend now, and re-welded them back to that pocket. So that gives us literally just enough clearance to the frame. This is full bump, and it worked out amazingly.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah.
cut the
So,
end, like, okay, you
yeah,
cut
this-
that off,
This
angled it.
bracket here,
Okay,
cut that, rotated the arms 90, and then welded it back on.
gotcha.
Everything's a little bit tight up here. We had to do a lot of modification to the frame up here because this frame originally had giant, massive spring pockets in it. And so we had to go in, chop all that off, do all this plating to reinforce that giant hole that was left over. Another thing we did for axle and suspension clearance, as you can see up here, we cut out and plated the cross member that you would usually go under the motor. And so to make up for that, we have this 1/4-inch wall 2x4 tubing, and that helps get everything tied back in and solid.
Yeah,
And,
keep it supported.
yeah.
I didn't even know you did that.
Yeah. I was originally thinking about basically doing that and then adding on a tubular brace that would just go in and bolt between those two. But with this up here, that's really not necessary. And this way, if you have to change an oil pan gasket or something like that, it's
One less thing in the way.
it's one less thing in the way. Ridiculously easy. As far as the steering goes, that was a big hurdle that I'm not completely happy with. I would like to find a different pitman arm. But with how the S10 gearbox, the pitman arm comes off the back of it and it swings back here. And that would have been all in the oil pan and the axle and the track bar and all that, so that wasn't going to work. But a common thing S10 built S10 solid axle swap guys go with is a Chevy Astro steering gearbox. So this is identical to an S10 box, except internally it is basically cut the opposite way. So it changes the swing. Now we can run the pitman arm off the front and get the appropriate.
That would have been tricky, because if you'd have just used the S10 pitman arm, turning the wheel left, you'd be going right.
Yeah, you'd be going right. Yeah, exactly.
It'd be weird.
Yeah, so this worked out really well. The main thing I'm not happy with is it's really hard to find a pitman arm that's darn near flat. I would like this to be up a bit higher. This is the stock S10 pitman arm. If I could find a flat one or one with a 1-inch drop, still has to have the same length to get the same amount of throw. That could get my drag link up a bit more, but at this point, the steering angles and the track bar and everything is set, so we're kind of locked in here. But for what this rig is doing, he's not smashing over rocks and stuff like that, so that's not a concern at all. Again, we're utilizing all the metal cloak suspension, track bar, etc. Same 8-inch ORIs back here, nice little resis. Yeah, there's a lot going on back here that's custom. So to reinforce the frame / give enough clearance to mount these ORIs in here, luckily we didn't have to go up into the bed at all to get it as low as we wanted. Part of the reason why we went with this 8-inch ORI, because we didn't want to get into the bed area at all and have to make tower covers and stuff like that in there. It's all underneath the bed surface. So we have this giant brace going across from side to side. And the ORIs are actually sitting in line with where the frame used to be. So basically this is just a big old C-notch like you do for like a lowered truck or something like that. Got our nice fancy off-road addiction up there. And you might notice that the whole rear half of the frame is tube. No more S10 frame. And we kind of went with this because it's the back half of the frame had a whole lot of bracketry and stuff going on for the spare tire carrier and the shock mounting and stuff like that. And the frame was a whole maybe about 10 inches, 8 to 10 inches shorter than would have really liked. That means I would have had to make a really long bumper to go on this thing. But we didn't want to do that. So instead, we just lopped the whole thing off, came in, made a couple hoops, welded them together. Had to remake my body or my bed mounts to work with the tube frame because I had already kind of set them up. But yeah, now we got real pre-runner looking truck here.
What's this cross for here?
This cross was partly to help brace between the two / get them to stay exactly where we had a little bit of extra spring back in the bending process, and I didn't want to go in and redo all that, so I just went ahead and squeezed them together the roughly about an inch to get it to where I needed. Welded this guy in, but it will also double for fuel tank mounting.
Ah, okay.
So
I keep forgetting about
I
that.
have a fuel tank picked out. We haven't ordered it yet. But I believe it's I want to say it's a 22 or a 24 gallon tank that's going to take up most of this space back here and give them plenty of fuel to go on long ventures and stuff like that. Pretty shallow as well. It's only like 8 inches deep, I think, at the max because it kind of tapers off to the rear a couple inches. I was going to say it has a real nice fuel pump in it, but I can't remember.
Warbro.
No, what's one of the ones we normally?
Deech.
No,
Brock.
no, bigger.
Polly.
No.
Fuel Master 9000.
So the gas tank that we're going in with this is a no limit fabrication gas tank. That's just what I found that was going to work best for this setup. Basically, their tanks, they have a number of different sizes, but they're made for old school Chevy, and I think they have some applications for old school Ford pickups for a more custom setup. But the size of their tank, filler neck location, everything was going to be perfect for what I needed with this. And it's also set up to go with a Aeromotive fuel pump. I believe it's the Stealth fuel pump. So it's already set up for what we need to go with this 5.3. And that thing's going to look sick in here, so I can't wait to get that.
Where's the fuel fill going to be at?
So the fuel fill.
Because, there's... it ain't got it, buddy.
We're going to we have a ton of space in this rear fender well. So likely we're going to come up in here somewhere in this area and have
cool.
a nice little
Yeah.
fuel cap. And it's not going to get in the way of the tire or anything because we got all the room.
Talk to me about these long arm brackets. How do you know where they go?
Well, so unlike the front, these are the Metal Cloak bolt-on long arm bracket. We opted to weld on, obviously. And I pretty much had to come in and put all the suspension together without it attached to the frame, get the bed in place, get the axle centered up under the fenders where I wanted it, and to figure out where we needed to place these brackets. Again, this frame's only 2 inches narrower than the JK frame, so arms are at a very, very slightly different angle than they were designed inwards, but that's almost nothing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had to do a little bit of modification to these brackets. We have a little slight bend in the frame towards the back. So we had to bend over just the back edge of this. For my cab mount, had to come in and slot to be able to get it in there where I needed. That was about it. I mean, besides that, it went in super smooth.
Yeah, so you just knew where your bed was going to go, and then you sent it up the axle and the wheel well, and then
Yeah, it's been a kind of step-by-step process of,
Yeah.
Have to get this done before you can get that done. And sometimes that can get a little confusing, but once you start making headway, stuff kind of starts going together faster. And
I really appreciate the detail on everything you've cut out. You got the triangles and everything. You got and the track bar mounts and the cross members.
Yeah.
And we need to get this learned up with the guys over here building the super builds. You know what I mean?
I mean,
Don't tell Rob I said that.
This isn't as heavy duty as the stuff that they're doing. Like, there's a reason they use big old square tubing for their cross members and stuff like that, because they are actually bashing on those rigs. This he's just going to be a nice little beach cruiser, run around town, stuff like that. So we don't have to take into account its longevity being bashed on the rocks over and over again. So that gives us a little bit of leeway as to how we build things. This is still 1/4 inch material, so it's very stout. Still stronger than a lot of your factory transmission cross members.
Yeah.
Besides looks and it looking fancy, a big reason for us doing this is, again, he's going to be driving on the beach. Beaches have sand. Sand gets everywhere. That's something we want to try and help avoid a little bit, make it easier to clean out. So just adding these extra holes and stuff. If he washes it off or even blows it off, drives it down the road, it just gives that sand somewhere to go and not get trapped in here.
Yeah.
So one of our next big hurdles, which is a really big hurdle, is this truck is a 47 International. Oh, hey guys. And it has a lot of rust in it. So as you can see, we only have about half of a floor right now. If the rust was just in the floor, that would be one thing, but over here in like the door sill area and basically where the entire structure kind of meets together in these corners is rusted out. The driver's side was actually worse. I've already cut out a lot of that material. As you can see here, the rust was bad, like really, really bad. And like all that's cut out. So I have to go in and
You got to make a floor, my guy.
basically make a floor, which I would have had to do partially anyway, because our transmission's a little bit larger than what it had in it originally. So I would have had to done a little bit of a transmission tunnel. But this thing was already pieced and patched together as it was, so I mean, we have half a floor. So it's a starting point.
Oh, that's cool looking at, like, what is that, like the fresh air?
Yeah, that's the very crusty little fresh air scoop up on the windshield cowl.
WD-40 on that dude or something.
Yeah, so for like all that stuff and like the steering column bracket and stuff like that, that's all stuff that's going to be taken out, sandblasted, cleaned up, painted, so it's all nice, smooth, refurbished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did the back of the cab looks pretty fresh? What's going on there? Or is it just painted?
Yeah, it was painted.
Okay.
When before we got this truck, there were plans that were made that well, they weren't the right plans. Customer wanted to stay with the original patina on the outside. They went in, sanded a bunch of it off, and primered it. So that really ruined that. So
Another shop, right? Yeah.
yeah, another shop, not us. Before we had it, and we've had this thing for a little while. But yeah, besides the bottom of the cab, I mean, really the rest of it's in pretty good shape.
The roof looks fine.
Yeah, roof's fine.
Are those like wooden visors?
Yeah, it's like a cardboard.
Like a cardboard?
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
It's like an old clipboard.
Not cardboard, but yeah, it's like clipboard material.
Are we fixing the bullet hole?
The bullet hole.
Or the BB gun shot in the windshield?
Oh, yeah. So I mean, these windows, besides the big crack in that one, I think the rest of them are mostly fine. But yeah, this glass has seen some better years, and luckily it's all flat glass, so this is stuff we can easily have cut out, because I don't think anyone makes or carries replacements for that stuff. these internationals, like you can't even, if you wanted to buy the factory floor, I haven't found anyone that even supplies it even. You know, it's not like the old Chevys and stuff like that.
All right, let's get you down, brother. Let me get your little stool.
A little bit closer. A little bit closer. A little bit closer. Okay.
See them gym skills, big dog. Ladies, he's single.
What? Where's it at? Screw it. Screw trying to
Where's
find
it at?
All right. So keep an eye out for the 47 International. We're going to have a lot coming out on it, hopefully in not too long. But I'll see you guys later. I clearly have a lot of work to do. And take it easy.